I returned to Marsden Cove Marina on April 18th and immediately set about two big jobs. The first was putting my repaired transmission back into the boat, along with new engine mounts and replacing the stuffing in the stuffing box. And the second big job was redoing the bottom paint. I was determined that Sea Change would not end up like this sad neighbor in the storage area. And here Sea Change is about to be relaunched with the new bottom paint, this time Hempel Olympic ablative paint, which at the end of this season 3 appears to be in very good shape with little growth, so is perhaps a little better than the Hempel Oceanic I had used in Panama. Well, Sea Change is going back in the water. Fresh bottom paint, transmission repaired, installed, engine mounts put on, new ones. Hopefully this is the last time I'll do all of this. Stay in the water for the rest of my ownership, I hope. It's the 26th of April 2024. Wow, such a good feeling. She comes, getting wet. Okay, I'm gonna hop on board and take a look at the stuffing band, see that she's not leaking. The restaurant at the marina has John Masefield's classic poem Sea Fever from 120 years ago up on the wall, which well summarized my feelings about getting back on board and starting my third season. Stop the video if you want to read it. It was good to be back in the water, here on the right end of their visitors' dock, with only a few tasks like bending the mainsail on remaining. I was fortunate to have excellent weather for the entire week of working on the boat, with sunsets like this one silhouetting the America's Cup boat NZL 62. I did not have my tracker working for the 3 days sailing north to Opua, hence the straight line north across land. But I essentially returned the way I came, down south, except stopping in the small bay of Tutukaka on the way, instead of Whangamuru and Whangamumu. Well, beginning of season 3. It is the 29th of April, and we are motoring into an easterly wind coming out of Whangarei harbour here. See the hills up in front here. This is Bream Head. We have to get around it eventually. It's going to be a bit of a battle. There's the exit into Bream Bay. There. That's where we'll go out. Back here, the defunct refinery. 3 ships from China. And behind there is Marsden Cove Marina that we finally left after, 10 days? Got there last Friday, and this is Monday. Way up that bay behind us there is the town of Whangarei, which we won't be visiting again. Anyway, we're going to head out that a ways, and hopefully it's not too rough. If it is, I'll just turn tail and come back and anchor and try again tomorrow. It turned out to be extremely rough in Bream Bay, with a strong easterly wind and big sharp swell, but we persevered and then sailed north on a beam reach to Tutukaka Bay. Here's my anchor alarm after a rather nervous and rolly night in the tiny harbour there, with just a couple of 100 feet separating us from the rocks, but as you can see, the anchor held perfectly with just a little sideways movement. Well, now it's Tuesday, April the 30th, I think. Maybe it's the 30th first. No, it's the 30th. I'm headed up to Whangamumu Bay, most likely. I mean, I could try to go around, but Cape Brett, but I don't think so. And this boat is just caught us and passed us. It seems to be doing the same thing. Very nicely set up boat with a hard dodger. We've got the same sail set up as us, the triple reef main and the 100% jib. They've got the kind of rig that's called a slutter with the 100% jib just on a furler just inside of the genoa. Anyway, it looks grey and grim over there, but over here it's actually quite nice and sunny, and the rain has mostly gone away. In the distance there you can see Cape Brett, but I don't think we'll get around there today. Leave that for tomorrow. And we're just rounding the rock off Cape Brett here, headed back towards Opua. Go through the Bay of Islands here. I don't think I'll stop. Just go straight through. There's the lighthouse up on the hill. It would be great to do the hike out there, but I'm not sure I'm in good enough shape for that. Well, we'll see. I changed my mind twice on this trip. First deciding to keep going around Cape Brett, shown here, as we had good beam reaching conditions, and then deciding not to push on to Opua in the dark, but rather to anchor behind Motorua Island for a very quiet night, barely moving around at all. Finally, the next morning I motored into Opua, where the marina was packed, as many other boats were also staging here to sail north in the autumn. And there were also the many local boats on moorings in this estuary. This aerial photo in the marina office shows the marina in center with endless mooring fields all around it. A low-pressure system to the east of New Zealand was bringing adverse winds for a couple of days, and I had to schedule an appointment with the Immigration and Customs folk before leaving. So I took the opportunity to rent a bike again and ride the Opua to Kawa rail trail, this time getting the timing right to catch a vintage train across the central part of the trail, marked in red on the map. The locomotive has to switch to the front end at this point, while we loaded our bikes onto a special carriage for them. Oh, it's Saturday the 4th of May, and I'm on a vintage train that runs a little section of track along the coast beyond Opua towards a town called Kawa. And a little double section of tracks here so that they can reverse the train, the motor, but they take bicycles. So here's my bicycle, I'm going for a ride up through typical wonderful New Zealand ferns and trees, scenery. And it's just a 15-minute ride, so no big deal, but it's a lot of fun. Rumbling along, this is the stream that leads into the estuary at Opua. Up too many trees. Lovely bridge here across the river. Man, could not have asked for a more beautiful day to be doing this. Absolutely clear sky, and it's now warm, although it's as chilly as could be this morning as usual. Quite something, a lot of fun. Glad I'm doing it. All the pastures with all the cows and the sheep as usual in New Zealand. This is the cycle track from Kawa to, I can't pronounce it, and this is literally the end of the line. All these rusty old cars that have just been abandoned here in the last section of line, and here's an old locomotive as well. Oh goodness me, it's been sitting here for eons and eons. Literally the end of the line. I enjoyed watching a high school rugby match for a while, as well as various wildlife like these black swans. And after a pleasant lunch at Kawa, which is quite a picturesque little town, but I failed to take any pictures, we returned on the train. Finally, it was time to say goodbye to friends in Opua, like South African JP, who was redoing the bottom paint on his FAR 40 crystal spray, and Barry, Mel, and Brian at the little cafe at the marina. I had met them in Nukuhiva and even before that in Panama. Sadly, I failed to get a picture of the folk who helped me the most in New Zealand, Fran and Ed on Aka, and their mechanic friend Brian, who repaired the transmission and helped with the stuffing box. It is unlikely I will ever see any of these folk again, one of the sad realities of cruising. In the next episode, I sail from New Zealand to New Caledonia.